When we speak of a conscious artist, we refer to one who spotlights kindness and cooperation as well as sustainability. When I was many years ago, I had the good fortune of having a roommate who was an aspiring rapper. One day, while he was so kind as to give me a ride in the car, most likely to Costco to do some shopping, um, we were talking about styles of rapping, and he explained to me that there are some rappers who are conscious, who speak of justice and kindness and sustainability and cooperation. And of course, I thought that was beautiful. Now, what's really neat is that neurologically speaking, every complex life form on this planet has dedicated neurological tissue that is specifically designed for empathy, or I should say specifically evolved for empathy. And the big fancy name for this is the anterior cingulate gyrus. Well, if that's the case, if we are wired for empathy, then why doesn't our world reflect that? Why don't we see, both in the macrocosm and the microcosm, kindness and sustainability and cooperation from sea to shining sea? The answer is quite simple. We have a standard neurological response to peril, as confirmed by functional magnetic resonance imaging devices. When we are exposed to peril, the part of our brain that lights up is the bottom part, the amygdala, the seat of fear, the seat of aggression. Fortunately, this can be reversed even in the midst of late-stage capitalism. And this should come as a little surprise, but our two main tools to deal with this are mindfulness and meditation. And they're not the only tools. We live in an interdependent universe, and there are things we can do to support our mindfulness and meditation. You know, things like sufficient sleep, healthy food, whole food, vegan diet, fresh air, sunshine, exercise, nurturing relationships, and the like. But let's stick to brass tacks. My area of specialty is mindfulness and meditation. So let's begin with mindfulness. Every time we breathe in, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system, which is ensconced within the thoracic region of our spinal cord. That's the part that correlates with our rib cage. And it's wired not to support active concentration, but instead to support a special type of perception. A perception that is vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random. A type of perception that is wired to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. That's wired to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Whether that which we experience is external or internal or physical or mental or pleasurable or painful or interesting or boring or glorious or grotesque. Now, what are we to do with all that stuff that we notice? Well, we meditate upon it, but how does that work? Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing a part of our central nervous system known as the parasympathetic nervous system. It is hidden or ensconced within the lower region of our spinal cord in the lumbar area and the tippy top of the cervical area. Together, these things help us to physically relax as well as mentally release. So here's the great irony. As long as we're alive, as long as we have a central nervous system, wired to a physical body, we can breathe in and we can breathe out. We can notice spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. So we can notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. And we can physically relax in such a way that it acts as if it was a carrier wave for mental release. Enlightenment is not only possible, it is something we evolved to do. In fact, it could be described as our birthright. This evening, I look forward to chanting and meditating with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent more than 8 hours a day, every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and then reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Tonight we're going to work or play with the sadhana version of the total space of Vajrasattva. Now, what this is this is the source text for all the most potent Dzogchen teachings. If there are teachings that do not trace back to this, or if there are teachings that call themselves Dzogchen that contradict this, they're probably not terribly empowering. This was composed in the 6th century by Prahe Vajra, who in Tibet is known as Gaurav Dorje. It was translated from the Tibetan into Italian by Chokyal Namkai Norbo, and translated from the Italian into English by Adriano Clemente. It's been adapted and amplified by this bloke who sits before you now. This is an add-on. I'd like to. Most meditation teachers encourage people to take a moment to perform a chant of empathetic bodhicitta and enthusiastic refuge to capture a useful momentum prior to meditation. We're going to begin with a literal approach to the subject, and we're going to set it to a triplet chant. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on thee, Buddha's example, instructions, and students. Consider, if you will, these 3 terms at the very bottom of the page. They're so useful to those on the spiritual path, they earned the metaphoric nickname of the 3 wish-fulfilling jewels, kind of like Aladdin's lamp. We come now to the final premeditation chant, or I should say recitation. It's more concise and more figurative and set to a bookend chant, which is the go-to chant for the remainder of this evening's practice. Together. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the 3 jewels. Together as a team, let's meditate as profoundly as the Sukatano on Lothal. As children, our first bicycle most likely had training wheels on it, and although they were clunky, they got the job done and kept us from tipping over. This evening's first meditation is going to be as clunky as it is pragmatic. As we breathe in, we can silently and mentally recite, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. And as we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. Let's chant. I pay homage to the Bhagavan, glorious Vajrasattva. The total space of Vajrasattva is the ever good and immense ultimate dimension of phenomena, being the pure total path that liberates all. It does not arise or cease, it does not think of anything. We're already wired during each exhalation to physically relax and mentally release. Doing so, it could feel as if our rather compressing experience is transformed into one of vast openness. Being love and thus thoroughly accomplish it is not practice great compassion. Being great, the profound qualities of greatness need not be praised. There is no need to force ourselves to be compassionate. It is already wired into us and accessed effortlessly as a fringe benefit of a regular practice of noticing and relaxing. Noticing whatever comes up, be it glorious or grotesque, be it interesting or boring. Phenomena do not move the authentic condition. Since self-originated wisdom is beyond searching, in liberating itself it also shows a path of liberation. We live in an interdependent universe, and clearly there are factors in our environment that support life or that undermine life. And yet, as long as we are breathing, we're able to notice and relax and taste of freedom. The great elements of the Bhagavan that exist by nature in all beings. However wrongly it may be conceived, liberation originates from self and not elsewhere. So in this context, when we speak of the Bhagavan, we're not speaking of a literal entity that we are to worship. We're speaking metaphorically. So when we were speaking of a deity's paradise or body or mantra or syllable, these are metaphors to help us viscerally experience that our circumstance is appearing yet not graspable. Our bodies are sensual yet not graspable. Our experience of the interpersonal is resounding yet not graspable. Our experience of the mental is lucid yet not graspable. Let us now remove the first of two metaphoric training wheels, reducing the number of syllables we're going to play with from 12 down to 3. Excuse me. During each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, notice this. During each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing. There will be times when it feels like either our body or our circumstance or our relationships or our mind is trying to beat us up. When that happens, playing with certain labels during our inhalation can be helpful. Not if our goal is to alter what's going on, but if our goal is to take a break from living in perpetual resistance, then these labels can help us to not only notice what's going on and accept what's going on, but also to harness its energy that it might serve us. So for instance, if you're feeling physical discomfort, during your inhalation, you could silently and mentally recite sensation. And with your exhalation, you could continue to silently and mentally recite relaxing. It is not her job to perfectionistically strive to find the perfect label in the shortest amount of time. Life is messy. We're born naked, screaming, and covered in goo. You know what's also messy? Meditation. So it's okay to cut yourself some slack and give yourself permission to have a shallow learning curve. Together. The wisdom of greatness is difficult to find. It is realized through pressure and method. Noticing, relaxing. I'm going to be fancy here for a minute. One moment here. Let's see here. Insert. Now, can I find a symbol with a tilde? Because that would be very, very cool. Let's see. An N with a tilde. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down here for a minute. I'm sure you can't see what I'm looking at. I'm just making funny faces into the camera, but why should it not be any different? Come on, tilde. Bear with me. Oh, so close and yet so far. Nope, no tilde. There is no joy in Mudville tonight. Sorry, guys. I sure did try, though. Let's continue. The wisdom of greatness is difficult to find. It is realized through partial and method. Though it could be said to depend on something else, where bliss originates from oneself. The real bliss, the bliss that's truly, truly helpful. It's not originate from a teacher or a mantra or a fun version of tantric sex. It just originates from the basic practice of respiration. The great miracle is not difficult or qualities and capabilities. Those subtle... sorry. through subtle understanding of the authentic condition immediately arises for oneself. Whatever we need for full enlightenment is accessed through inhalations and exhalations, perception and relaxation. Oopsie. Meditation is relaxing without seeking in the dharmata that does not appear visibly. If one actively searches either for the dharmata or for something in it, the natural condition will not manifest. Our controlling tendencies do not serve us on the path of enlightenment. The supremely secret reality cannot be heard through the sense of hearing. Likewise, it cannot be expressed by the tongue, not even in the slightest. There is no secret password, no mysterious handshake. It simply cannot be. Full enlightenment is inexpressible. Most things are. I mean, can you express the scent of fresh-cut watermelon or the taste of a homegrown tomato? Now let us remove the second of two metaphoric training wheels and reduce the number of syllables we meditate upon from 3 down to 1. During each inhalation, we're already wired to perceive. During each exhalation, we are already wired to relax and release. Therefore, during each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. And during each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax. Clearly, transforming 3-syllable labels to 1-syllable labels can require a bit of the old poetic license. When we feel physical sensations, we can recite the noun form. When we feel emotional sensations, we could recite the verb feel. When we experience a memory, we could play with the preposition then. When we experience a fantasy, we could play with the verb dream. If you just joined, welcome aboard. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting or Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. And of course, you can always type it, you can always in the window tell me or type to me where you come from, which part of the country, or which part of the globe you are sitting on right now. The suffering of beings is the bodhicitta that fully manifests while pervading on, without ever being moved it up as equally just as the reaches of space. In the folly of my youth, I tried to manipulate my teachers into giving me a secret that would instantly alleviate all my sufferings. Of course, I tried reasoning with him that if my sufferings were reduced, I'd be able to devote more energy to the path. They, of course, explain to me that sufferings are the path. So whatever we perceive, whether it is interesting or boring or internal or external or physical or mental or glorious or grotesque, it serves us on the path. For whatever we experience as we breathe in, our response is always the same as we breathe out, to physically relax and mentally release. And so it teaches, viscerally, it teaches us non-duality. That which is the equality of all distinctions is conceived by figuratively saying it is karma. Using the phrase it is karma to remind us of the folly of our own controlling tendencies is useful. Were it really literally under the power of karma, self-originated wisdom would not exist. But to use the idea of karma as a way to justify defeatism is not really helpful on the path. That causes the vajra as all the secondary conditions. Never having been born, it cannot be destroyed. Whenever we physically relax in harmony with our exhalation, whatever we noticed during the previous inhalation could feel as if it was as non-graspable as if it had never been born. And so we see that the Buddhist notion of deathlessness, selflessness, birthlessness, and emptiness were always only supposed to be figurative. Since it is the Buddhi essence that exists from the beginning, the ultimate dimension is not moved by the effort of thought. Meditative stability of supreme quality. Being real meditative stability is beyond the tyranny of thought. This might sound like a no true Scotsman logical fallacy. But what he's pretty trying to say is the problem is not with the perception of thought. It's with the tyranny of thought, which is transcended during the physical relaxation and mental release that are in the natural consequence of exhalation. Without applying thought or purifying in accordance with nature, from thought itself wisdom springs forth. Putting the expression gateway to the subtle, they seek the path by isolating the mind. Maintaining isolation in a secluded place. If we examine well, this is conceptual meditation. Let us not practice the austerity of undermining our fundamental psychological needs of having relationships. They coined the terms They coin the terms cause and effect, but both virtues and negativities dissolve completely. They say we will get out of this world and nurture supreme complacency in accepting and rejecting. The physical relaxation and mental release inherent in each exhalation help us to realize the non-graspability of whatever we noticed during the previous inhalation, regardless of whether that which is noticed is virtuous or non-virtuous, positive or negative, constructive or destructive. Attachment and non-attachment are the path of words, and something in the middle is the same like an echo. So, our job is not to repress the functions of mind, in the name of becoming some quasi-spiritual Mr. Spock. Enlightenment is as natural as breathing in, breathing out, noticing, and relaxing. Happiness and suffering have the same cause. Vajrasattva, Lord of beings. Attachment and take two. Attachment, anger, and ignorance arise from the path of enlightenment's total bodhi. Our problem is not the presence of the three mental poisons of attachment, anger, and ignorance, but their tyranny. Therefore, there is no need to undermine our mindfulness. We can exercise the courage of noticing the grotesque that lies beneath our socially acceptable veneer. For exhalation is as inevitable as inhalation, as is its physical relaxation and mental release. The five sense objects of enjoyment too was to be the ornament of the Dharmadhata dimension. Space is beyond the horizon of what and thought itself is like space. As we physically relax and mentally release in harmony with our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast empty void, could feel as if it was as non-graspable as wide open space. Without attachment from space dedication, one's great aim manifests as space. Vapriya quality is the Dharmakaya mastery of awareness and letting go. Like the moon's reflection in water, it cannot be grasped. Through the energy manifestation of Samantha Mantra, the Alikali of vowels and consonants are profoundly displayed. Through the beautiful Tali upon their emanated branches, in the sphere of experience of the whole world, the profound voice of the Buddha arises. Yes, we can use some syllables to generate really interesting physical sensations, but it is the totality of experience that benefits us the most, not the picking and the choosing, but being vulnerable to whatever comes up as we breathe in, whether it is external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. Wonderful the sphere of experience of the Buddhas is not a place to be found by searching, and like the phenomena of the six senses, it is also not an object we should grasp after. Those who search for it are like the blind reaching for the sky. Our controlling tendencies do not serve us well upon enlightenment's path. The gradual path of purity that leads higher and higher does not correspond to the nature behind action. If someone says they can help you become enlightened in just 465 easy steps, they are mistaken. At this point, in today's lesson, you already know everything you need to know to become the next Buddha. Were there really a path to tread just like the paths of the sky, one would never arrive. The authentic condition being thus by being shown as it is attained. Just being told, just by being reminded that we are already wired during each inhalation to notice, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. And to also be reminded that during every exhalation, we are already wired to physically relax and mentally release. That's all we need to know. Practice those two things and stand back and watch as everything else takes care of itself. As it is the very essence, its manifestation arises from it, or how marvelous. Time past and time present, or the authentic condition that is complete in its own place. Likewise, its path is the same, this is its very nature. The universal path that is the same as that is like the moon and the basis of its reflection. This path can be beautiful and glorious and yet never fails to remind us of the frailties of interdependence. As it is the absolute equality of all, it is not realized with a limited view. Present bliss and later bliss are what is directly experienced and what ensues from it. Since they imply the defect of an experience, one should not rely on them. Chasing after bliss does not the path make. The three times are one without distinction. Without past or future, it exists from the beginning. Since all pervaded by the Dharmakaya, that is the mastery of awareness and release is the same. It abides in nature's total greatness. Oh, please ignore the fools who tell you that you must not acknowledge the past or our anticipation of the future, but crucify ourselves gorily and bloodily to the present moment, for that is the stuff of nightmares. Finding oneself in the three realms of existence, all is just a name and a magical illusion. The map is not the terrain described in the map. The labels we use to describe our experience are not the experience of themselves, and nor is their accuracy 100% guaranteed. Even the great status of a Chakravartin universal king, being a magical illusion, is unable to purify. How do we purify? How do we purify that which we perceive during our inhalation? By relaxing and releasing during each exhalation, just the way that we have evolved to. Perhaps that is why a nickname for enlightenment is nothing special. For those whose attitude depends on time, it does not manifest in time. If one practices with an aspiration without being free, the saying on the characteristic of emptiness applies. Once again, our controlling tendencies do not serve us well. It is one totally beyond an aspect. The yogi dwells in the pathways of birds in the sky, in the essence that never occurred and never originated, where all phenomena are supposed to exist. All things, beings, phenomena, and locales could feel rather non-graspable as we physically relax into and mentally release during our exhalation. Outer and inner, take two. Outer and inner are both the outer is the inner. The profound is not an object of understanding, not even a part of it. Let us not strive. Let us not be the fool who interrupts a make-out session to analyze it. Rather, let us surf the glory and splendor of the present moment. Existence is only a name, the power of mistaken existence. Thus one remains separate from the quality of meditation. In the outer and inner samayas abide in the nature of the aggregate and sense bases. What is the nature of all the many vows the fundamentalists wish us to cling to? It is the nature of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although tantalizing to the senses, is non-graspable to the hand. Immovable it is, a symbol of the body, unshakable it is wisdom. Not taking hold of anything, it has no self. Not rejecting anything, it has a quality that transcends words. Perception is inevitable. Release is inevitable. We do not need to coerce them. We do not need to cling on to them. Notwithstanding what, whose, and where, all that one uses and enjoys arises from oneself. Here of males and females, the king of equality has never spoken. Let us let go of whatever we notice, including the petty distinctions and categories and labels that people fight and die over. Here there is no mention of something to accomplish. And by the way, while we're at it, that would include all the labels would include many things, including countries and cultures. The great luminaries of yore have implored us to love all beings everywhere, not just our kin, not just our neighbor, not just people who look like us or sound like us or dress like us or vote like us. All beings everywhere. If you are a beggar and you're starving and you have one slice of bread and someone else to you is hungry, tear that bread in half and share it with them. but you'll still be hungry. You can be hungry together. The satisfaction we crave is not found in creature comforts. They can be lovely, but they are not the deep satisfaction we crave. That only comes from kindness and cooperation. Here there is no mention of something to accomplish by means of resolute, forceful conduct. The path that requires great effort is not the path of Dzogchen. But it is deemed that by that possessing the bliss of magical illusion arises. Once again, yes, we can contrive bliss, but it is as non-graspable as a stage illusionist's tricks. Since nature cannot be defined in one single way, it appears according to how one looks at it. Ah, yes, the Obi-Wan Kenobi doctrine. Even the bliss from the effort and wish for its manifestation is a great hindrance and defect. What do we do when we notice ourselves craving, even craving something good? Well, after that in-breath is over and it transforms into an out-breath, you guessed it, relax and release. In all the secondary methods for Bodhi enlightenment, one meditates on the attributes of a tantric archetype like the moon's reflection on water. But even if something untainted and unattached results, such meditation is like the sphere of experience of an ordinary person. We do not need mantra meditation. We do not need love and letting go. We do not need visualizations. We do not need to manipulate our channels, winds, and drops. All we need is to notice, relax, and release. Although by identifying with the body of the great wrathful one archetype, with his body wrathful grimaces as well as attributes, with even the settable concretely actualized with the authentic condition of the quiescent state is not seen. Concentration ain't the way. Just as that hot... Need some water. Just as the top of a palm tree is cropped, and just as a seed is burned by fire, likewise the dominion of powerful emotions may be prevented, as some have taught. All the hundreds and thousands of methods, according to one practice, bear the specific fruit. But since enlightenment is beyond conceptual characteristics, it is not manifest from these abodes. Our controlling tendencies do not serve us well. Good fortune has a yogi who abides in this indescribable state. For by not discriminating between self and others, the magical illusion of self-perfection manifests. When we notice our sense of self as we breathe in, we respond by relaxing and releasing as we breathe out. The exact same way we respond to our perceptions of others. Since we have an identical reaction to both self and others, we experience non-duality. As nothing is excluded, it is perfectly complete. It is unchanging and remains straight. So, if our perception, vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random, excludes nothing and embraces everything, then whatever we're noticing, it's doing the same thing. And the great irony is, in our ever-changing world, as long as we draw a breath, we are experiencing a modicum of permanence. Boundless like space, it is not a phenomena that depends on something else. The spontaneously existing total bliss arises from one's recognition through the very power of incomparable wisdom. Reality does not originate from anything else. It is easy and difficult, and it is difficult because it is easy. It does not manifest directly, but is all-pervading. Not even Vajrasattva can point it out with a name, saying, "This is it." Our controlling tendencies, our fear, our rigidity, our superstition, lends us to make things more difficult than they need be. This amazing marvelous energy manifestation is beyond action and equal to space. From the ignorance that does not conceptualize anything, it immediately arises within oneself. This is the path equal for all, that naturally abides in all beings. This is huge. This is the opposite of being elitist. This is egalitarian. Elitists don't like it, and so they make up fictions like, oh, this is a secret text. This is a forbidden text. You need permission to read this text. Really? Because that's not what its author said. But since ordinary people don't allude to defilement, it is like when the doctor needs to find the medicine. Oh, that's a phrase I used. Restricted. Says the controlling elitist. Guys, we can be controlling or elite, or it can be laid back and egalitarian. Please, oh please, choose the second. In the domain of understanding is total bliss, that itself is like the utterly pure land of all. I'm having trouble here. That itself is like the utterly pure land of all team. Ah, yes, off bitch. When lights coalesce from all sides, the four directions, the intermediate ones, and the above and below are produced. This is a reference to the sixth enlightenment factor of pneumatic coalescence, breathing in. From the indefinite colors of the rainbows, the features of the five Buddha families manifestly appear. And likewise the moving particles and unmoving environment, but it is superior to the five elements. What is superior to noticing the five elements? Releasing them. Effortlessly and viscerally during each exhalation. It does not abide in the designations of past, present, past, future, and present, understanding that it has no arising nor ceasing, that itself is the integration of the three times in the total state. Whether we notice a past memory or a fantasy of the future, both are relaxed and released. Being equal, there is nothing to arrange gradually. Being one, it is beyond dedicating something in a direction. Although the ornaments of accumulated offerings are arrayed, since they exist by nature, there is nothing to array. Better an hour in meditation than a lifetime spent tending a sacred flame. So teaches the Dhammapada. Being spontaneously present, it is beyond dedicating. Pure from the beginning, it is nectar. The 12 sense bases are not to be particularly focused on with special intention. Let us avoid the pseudo-spiritual traps of scholars. The intention. So if someone says, here's a list of things to contemplate, thank them for their time and their concern, but walk away. The path is remarkably easy and swift. The Buddha says it can be mastered in a week. The intention of the mind, the donor, operates all through the power of perception. In the city, accomplishment that arises from having seen balanced meditation is perfected. What if the greatest magical attainment is simply the ability to notice in harmony with our inhalation? Vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Keeping it for an instant is union, experiencing pleasure is samaya. Now let's see here. Okay. Performing the dance movements of method, the union of non-duality is often. Giving without holding is the Dharma cake offering. Being beyond action, all activities are completed. Since our conceptual wisdom eliminates abstractors, balanced meditation without speaking is the mantra. What if we don't need a literal mantra? What if simply noticing and releasing was our metaphoric mantra that protected us from the obstructions that keep us from mastering our own Buddha nature? Making offerings to the Guru generosity and all the other meritorious deeds. Without the power of detachment and imperturbability become a great bondage. Therefore, that which is expressed in this teaching becomes obscured when one tries to work towards it. Being thus, if it is conceptualized, it will never be realized. Be aware of teachers who make it more difficult than it need be. Now let us seal our practice with a bit of the old loving kindness. May all beings practice self-kind communication, conduct, and calmness for the spontaneous and uncontrived. May everyone be free from misery, may everyone be happy, may no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging, freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 3/4 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.